Good afternoon, everyone, or good day, good morning. My name is Kay-leigh, and in this reflection, I'll be discussing the grade 4 lesson, which was designed by me, and the topic is people and places. The aim of the lesson is so that learners can identify important places in the community. Learners also need to know how to locate these places on a map, and the learners also need to know the differences between the different places. The ICT tools which I used was Google Docs, YouTube, as well as Kahoot, and lastly PowerPoint. They are meant to make the learning process fun and engaging. The lesson had 3 phases: the introduction, the development, and the consolidation phase. Each activity used a different ICT tool to promote learner engagement, participation, and understanding while supporting the learning objectives, which were formed using Bloom's taxonomy. For the introduction, I firstly used a YouTube video introducing the topic so that learners can have an idea on what the topic people and places is. Secondly, I used Google Docs, where I used PowerPoint. Where I basically put different images of the different places, where I asked the learners, what is the name of this place? Have you been there before? Is there this type of place in your community? Learners observed the pics and they answered the questions and they shared their own examples, which helped achieve the first lesson objective of identifying and naming important places. According to the SAMR model, this activity represents the substitution level because PowerPoint replaced just normal pictures that learners would have had and pasted in their workbooks without changing the learning task, which ultimately made the lesson more visually engaging while integrating the ICT tool, of course. During the development phase, I used Google Forms. So I basically designed a map and I put the map on the Google Forms page, worksheet, if I can call it that, where learners had to study the map. The map was visually engaging because it had pictures and colors, which obviously works for the visual learners. Learners were required to study the map and answer the questions based on the map. Instead of looking at a printed map, learners interacted with a digital map which was accurate. This activity helped learners apply their knowledge and better their map reading skills, which ultimately helps achieve locating places using a map lesson objective, right? This activity represents the argumentation level of the SAMR model because the digital map cancelled out the paper map, allowing learners to zoom. If they can't see clearly, they don't need to squint their eyes and try to see what's happening on the map. Instead, they can just zoom and explore the different locations. To conclude the lesson, I used Kahoot to assess learners' understanding. The learners were able to join the Kahoot quiz by either scanning a QR code using their devices, or they could just simply use a game pen and answer the multiple choice questions as well as the true or false questions. And the nice part about the Kahoot is that they receive feedback immediately. So I don't have to mark and then they can get their feedback tomorrow. No, they can get their feedback today. This quiz made assessment enjoyable while reinforcing key concepts. This activity represents the modification level because instead of the normal paper quiz, the learners were able to answer a digital quiz. Throughout the lesson, my role as a teacher was to facilitate the lesson, was to guide the learners, and to demonstrate the ICT tools, ask questions, and provide feedback. The learners actively participated by answering the questions that I asked, and also by discussing amongst themselves on how to answer the questions. This learner centered approach encouraged collaboration, critical thinking, communication, and active participation. I designed the lesson to accommodate learners with different learning abilities, such as visual. There was a PowerPoint presentation, there was a YouTube video, which also helps learners who are more audio type of learning. And also there was a visual map. Learners who needed extra help were able to work with their peers in groups during the Google Forms activity, and the advanced learners could assist their peers and answer the questions on time. I believe the lesson was effective because learners were actively involved throughout the lesson and had opportunities to develop map skills, communication skills, and digital literacy. Next time, I would ask learners to create their own digital map so that they can also show the skills that they have learned on how a map needs to be using ICT tools. Thank you so much.